Attention please. This upload is only for educational purpose. No intention to infringe copyrights. Learning English with subtitles. GPITRAL. GPITRAL. Definitely a must-see. Follow us.
The family home, traditionally a place of refuge at the end of a long working day. But when the home of your dreams turns into a house of horrors, when spirits move in and try to move you out, it's time then to call on medium Johnny Fiore and specialist house cleanser Ian Lawman, the team from Living with the Dead.
You know you're being watched, you can feel it.
This wall here, someone has lost their life behind this wall.
Feels bad.
I ask of you to leave these people alone. Get them out. Get everyone out, out, out. Quick, 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 quick. Go, go, go.
At the top of most houses there is a loft, a space in the eaves for families to store belongings, not needed from day to day. Old toys, suitcases, boxes of rubbish, sometimes even something of value waiting to be discovered. But sometimes, something a little more sinister lurks under the rafters. Dawn and Kevin Warren have lived in their Church Gressley home for the past 22 years. The house itself was built in Victorian times, and they planned to do the place up. However, as soon as they started the renovation work, they started to notice things happening.
We was hearing bangs and footsteps and sounds, but we put it down to the heating being put on because the house had been empty 5 years.
Then something happened which started to make them wonder if there was more to this house than met the eye.
One evening, my husband says, come on, we'll go for a drink. We were sitting in the pub and Alan Fairbrother, his name is, he's passed away now. He came in and he says to Kevin, he says, what's Dawn doing, having a good beak behind the curtain? And Kev says, I don't know what you're talking about, mate. He goes, I've just seen her. Kev says, no, she's over there. Well, he went a bit white. And he says, well, who was that then? He said, well, I don't know, but there's nobody in the house.
It was an incident that made everyone wonder at the time, but Dawn brushed it off as just one of those things, until something unexpected happened one night.
There was an occasion I'd been on a night shift, and I was in bed. I dozed off for a few hours, and I turned over, and as I turned over there, I saw the girl standing at the bottom of the bed. She'd got a long white nightdress on, and she'd got long hair with a bit of a wave in it. I came downstairs. I couldn't go back up there.
The girl. It was the first time she had made her presence felt, but this was a figure who was going to feature strongly in their lives over the next few years. Again, Dawn wasn't sure what she'd seen, and again she put it down to her imagination. But then one day, she was having a rest in the living room.
I opened my eyes, and there she stood again. And she was there as plain as day. It was exactly the same thing as what I saw a few years before, and I knew this time, no, I hadn't imagined it.
This was a family who, before they moved to Church Gressley, hadn't experienced anything supernatural. Mum, Dawn, is a former nurse, forced out of work because of a back injury, leaving Kevin supporting the family with his income as a builder. Joel is your typical 14-year-old boy into football and kickboxing, and daughter Jodie works in the accounts department for a local catering company. Since the appearance of the girl, the level of activity increased, with moments of unexplained banging, lights going on and off, and strange goings-on around Dawn's collection of musical boxes and dolls. After weeks of disturbance, they started to record what was happening on their home video camera.
Earlier on today, I heard a bang, and I come upstairs to see what it was, and it was one of my mum's porcelain dolls that fell off, and there's no way it could have been knocked off.
The incidents continued with unexplained sounds seemingly of people walking around the house, keeping them awake at night. Now it's starting to affect their whole lives.
I mean, it's worrying me, it's bothering me. I mean, you literally lie in bed at night, you open your eyes and you can hear it walking across the floor, you can hear the creaking of the floorboard. That is eerie to me.
It's now started to affect my 14-year-old son. He started to see things. It's just not right. And I mean, after all, I mean, he's got his education to concentrate on. He can't be looking over his shoulder every 5 minutes.
Coming up, the Warrens discover something in the attic that could be the source of all the spirit activity. And Living with the Dead medium Johnny Fiore sheds light on why it seems so prevalent in the back room.
Someone has lost their life behind this wall.
The Warren family moved into their Church Gressley home 22 years ago. Ever since, they found themselves at the centre of unexplained activity.
When we first moved in, we just thought it was the creaking and banging in the house just moving because it'd been empty for 5 years.
However, it was seeing a vision of a girl that forced Kevin to question his scepticism.
I was down here alone, swung round the door, and then I seen her for the first time. She just, the girl, long blonde hair, walked straight through me like.
Then one day, Kevin went into the kitchen to cook dinner.
I looked in towards the pantry, and there I seen a little old lady. She just stared and stared at me, and I stared back, and then I quickly got out of the kitchen.
So far, all of these happenings had affected just one family member at a time, but that was about to change. One day, Jodie was helping Dawn in the kitchen.
I said, Jodie, can you get me a loaf of bread out of the freezer? The next thing, the loaf of bread went flying across the kitchen. It was thrown, but we didn't see anything, but it went flying.
And then shortly after, Dawn started to get the feeling she was being watched.
They used to make cushions and things. The most frightening experience I have actually had, switched the machine on. I thought, oh, I can do it now before I go to collect the son. And I kept feeling there's somebody watching me. I turned my head and I saw a dark shadow walk across. I know what I saw and I did not imagine it. That's when it started to get seriously frightening.
The girl, we got used to living with her. I mean, she was no threat, no nothing, but this other thing is when it's here. That is, I mean, it's worrying me, it's bothering me.
This darker presence now brings the constant feeling of being watched.
You know you're being watched, you can feel it. It's got so bad, I've even thought about moving. It's just like living in misery and depression and nerves, and it's not fair to have a quality of life like this.
The town of Swadlincote is rich in history, being over 900 years old, and with a long heritage in coal mining and pottery. At one point, over 6,000 men were employed to work in the collieries, a dangerous job in which many men lost their lives. Dawn and Kevin's house dates back to the 1870s, in a part of the town where most houses were lived in by coal miners. So why was all this happening to them? What was causing it? Dawn sought the help of paranormal investigators from her local area to try and get some answers.
Dawn asked us to go to this house in Church Gressley because she was very upset about it and very emotional about the activity, what they'd been seeing in this house, especially upstairs in the back room.
As soon as you walk into the door, there is quite a strong energy that you're sort of like, well, what's going to happen next? I found it very intriguing, and certainly the bedroom in the house, when we went up there, I expected the door to slam behind me. It was a bit intimidating, to be honest.
When we was investigating the building, we saw dark figures moving around upstairs, and at one time we believe one of our members of the team was pushed down the stairs. When I went into the bedroom, I really wanted to go through the wall. I kept banging on the wall and going, I want to go to the other side of the wall. I was so insistent on wanting to get through this wall, and there was no way through.
The paranormalists had led them to the wall in the back room, and it was then that Kevin made a surprise discovery.
When we bought the house, my husband didn't look in the loft straight away. When he did go up there, he says, "You don't ever believe what's up there." And I said, "What?" And he says, "There's a chair."
This was something they'd never noticed before. It had sat in the dark in one corner, old and forgotten, and it raised some questions. How had it got there in the first place? The loft hatch was only a few inches wide, and there was no other opening, no way to get a chair of any size in.
I said, "How the dickens are they going to get a chair up there in that little hole?" He says, "Well, I'm telling you, it's there."
And then there was an incident a few weeks later that made them think there was more to this chair than they'd first thought.
We decided to put the Christmas decorations in the loft. My husband went up to get them down, and the chair was on its side. When they went to put the Christmas decorations away, it had been moved, it had been sat up.